All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Rob McConnell here, coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide, toll-free, 800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV, and our website, xzoneradiotv.com. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour is my good friend Howard Bloom. And he's a visiting scholar at New York University, is founder of the International Paleopsychology Project, executive editor of the New Paradigm book series, a founding board member of the Epic of Evolution Society, and a member of the New York Academy of Sciences, and the list goes on and on and on. His website is www.howardbloom.net, and he's also the author of the Mohammed Code that's available in ebook format on Amazon.com. And Howard, welcome back to the X Zone, my friend, and welcome back from the Far East.
Well, thanks, Rob. We are speaking in a very, very perplexing and disturbing time.
We certainly are, my friend.
One thing's very obvious. We are closer to the possibility of World War III than we have been since 1962 in the days of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Mm-hmm. And we are up against the kinds of problems that we humans as a species have not yet learned to solve. I mean, we've gone a great deal towards solving them. The fact of the matter is that the amount of peace in the world is 9 times as great as it was in 1650. Roughly 350 years ago, that your odds of dying a violent death at the hands of another human being today are 1/9 what they would have been, not just in 1650, but in an indigenous tribal society that we're told lives at peace with fellow man and in harmony with the world. The amount of peace in the world has gone up dramatically. But the fact of the matter, and you can find the evidence for that in my first book, The Lucifer Principle, but the fact is, we are still on the precipice of a potential war, and even our greatest experts, for example, the President of the United States, are not quite sure what to do about it.
That's right.
What do you think we should be doing?
Well, you know what? I think it's a very serious game of chess. I think that we are closer to the brink of nuclear war than we were going back to the Cuban Missile Crisis. It seems that Khrushchev wasn't as antagonistic as Putin is. Putin is claiming, geez, it's not me who's sending in the disturbers. But if people who believe they are Russian want our help, we're not going to say no. Like, that's a double-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword because Europe has maintained stability because of the stability of its boundaries.
Yes.
Ever since World War II. And with the possible exception of the war that we had in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the stability of those boundaries is profoundly important. Now, we have overstepped our boundaries severely because we promised from 1990 to 1992, we promised the Russians that we would not take advantage of their weakness, that we would not try to creep into their territory, that we would not take territory to the east and incorporate it in either the European Union or NATO. And we've broken that promise with approximately a dozen nations. So shame on us. There's a certain amount of responsibility, in fact, a large amount of responsibility that we bear for this situation. And right now, Russia is in the position of seeing territory in Mexico, of being America, and seeing territory in Mexico and territory in Canada being taken for part of the Russian Federation. We would never tolerate that,
no,
never in a million years.
Yeah.
But the fact is that that the tension that's going on, it's more than tension in the Ukraine. The chess game, as you called it, in the Ukraine, is leading to human deaths. Once you kill a person, that person will never live again. That is the end, period. And every death brings us closer to the possibility that Putin may have either the excuse or the necessity of sending in his troops to save what he regards as his people. So it's a dangerous game, and it has to be resolved somehow by peaceful means. And yet, we tried resolving this kind of war situation by peaceful means in the 1930s with a guy named Adolf Hitler. And because his appetites were voracious, kowtowing to him, trying to make peace with him, turned out to be a way to fuel his ferocity. So we don't want to repeat the situation of the 1930s, and yet somehow we have to resolve this peacefully.
What I find strange is that we are using, or when I say we, I'm talking about President Obama is using the Chancellor of Germany as the intermediary here.
Well, there's good reason to. Both she and Putin speak the German language. Putin, as a KGB man, was stationed in Germany for a long time, and he has a natural rapport with Germans that he doesn't have with us.
All right, stand by. Howard, you and I have to take our break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Howard Bloom is my guest. He's the author of The Muhammad Code. It's available at Amazon.com in e-format. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Morrow, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, aguidinglight, spelled lite.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Howard Bloom is my guest this hour. He is the author of The Muhammad Code. It's available at Amazon.com in e-format. His website is www.howardbloom.net. And Howard, Do you think that when President Obama backed down in Syria, that this was the inspiration for Putin to do what he's doing in the Ukraine?
Absolutely. No question about it. I mean, when two animals go up against each other, when two stags go up against each other, they want to avoid violence. Why? Because those horns are lethal.
Yep.
They could kill each other easily. So instead of attacking each other, they walk side by side and they take each other's measure. And they're not just taking each other's measure in terms of height and breadth and weight. They're measuring something else. They're measuring the confidence of the other. And the one who shows the greatest confidence wins, and the one who shows the least confidence backs away and slinks off into the bush. A leader must be a master of confidence. And when you show insecurity, that's when you show uncertainty, when you draw a red line and you don't follow it up, you have blinked. You have demonstrated insecurity. You have demonstrated a lack of confidence. You have just lost the hierarchical battle, the battle to see who's on top and who is not. And so things have been going downhill ever since. The Israelis don't believe Obama when he says that we have your back. Those people around the world to whom he's making commitments, for example, in Asia, don't really believe that his commitment means anything because his commitment hasn't proven to mean anything. Now, here's the trick. It's not a question of whether Obama should have rained Tomahawk missiles down on Syria after he made his threat. You don't make threats without thinking through your options in advance. We all know the Teddy Roosevelt phrase, walk softly and carry a big stick.
Yep.
It's the stick that counts, not the talk. And if it's all talk and no stick, you've got a problem. Well, a person who knows how to use a stick figures out in advance what his options are. In fact, the Defense Department has the task of constantly figuring out scenarios with which to handle any kind of crisis situation you can possibly imagine. And if you are a wise leader, remember, Michelle Obama has called Barack Obama, back in the days when he was running for president, brilliant. Well, if he's so brilliant, you look at your options very carefully before you make a definitive statement like this is a red line. And Obama didn't do that. Now, we're now in the process of picking up the pieces. And the question is how. And my suggestion for the current Ukrainian crisis is that we negotiate with Putin for elections all through the Ukraine, elections that are supervised by both the United States and Russia, because we know that Russian elections are a sham, and if the Russians supervise the elections, then the Russian minority is going to turn out to be the majority, and it's going to get its way. But we also know that American-led elections or EU-led elections have tended to be a bit of a sham, and they also are rigged so that the results will come out our way. So if we work together to have elections in the Ukraine, instead of people shooting each other, there was a woman standing on a balcony looking at a battle. This was just in the last 48 hours because she'd never seen a battle before in her life. One of the bullets hit her in the head. She's dead. That kind of thing is intolerable. Between 35 and 45 people dying in fire in a government building in Odessa on Friday, that kind of thing is intolerable. I have a Russian collaborator in theoretical physics, Pavel Karakin, of the Keldysh Institute of Applied Mathematics of the Russian Academy of Sciences. And Pavel's like a family member to me. Pavel sent me a huge file today filled with pictures of the charred bodies of the people who died in that government fire, in the government building fire. Now, those were people on the Russian side, not our side. It doesn't matter. They're human beings. We need to get together and stop lying about what we're doing and have some sort of electoral situation that favors the Russians as much as it favors us, and favors us as much as it favors the Russians. Let the Ukrainians make up their mind and settle this peacefully, for God's sakes, and go back to Well, it's a complicated situation. Go back to respecting the boundaries of the Ukraine, which both the United States and Russia guaranteed in 1992 when the Ukraine gave up its